Pat's in as well?
I think I'm gonna have a green, if I have a green check. Well, does she have a green, do you have a green check?
I don't have a green check yet.
You have one for me?
I do for everyone else.
Okay. I don't have a green check yet. You checked?
Because I'm new to the.
Yeah, you got it.
Green check.
Excellent, yes.
All right,
We're in business.
we're good to go. All right, good evening. Welcome to the Wednesday, April 24, 2024 Urbandale City Council meeting. And I will call the meeting to order and ask Nicole to take roll call, please.
Bodie,
Present.
Here.
Harbury Montgomery,
Here.
Kroll,
Here.
McBurney,
Here.
Rosendahl.
Here.
Please stand as you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Urbandale is a national leader in character counts, endeavoring at all times to promote and model the principles of trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. In conducting tonight's meeting, we expect that all participants will act in a respectful manner consistent with these principles. Item 2 is to approve the agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery,
Second.
second by Bodie. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Item 3 is Citizens Forum. This is the opportunity to address the council on something that's not a part of tonight's agenda. Bob, I think you would, I'll recognize you first. I know you would ask to be here tonight, so if you could please come up to the podium and give your name and address.
Bob Stark, delighted to be here today. Thanks, Bob, for.
Is the microphone on there, Bob? Is the green light on? There we go.
Green light, green light. Bob, thanks for letting me speak today. My name is Bob Start. I'm running for supervisor for District 2 and trying to carry on the good work of Bob Brownell. This week, I'm celebrating 30 years of having a business in Polk County, and so it's a special week for me, and just excited to have the opportunity to run for supervisor position. And Pat, I haven't seen you for 14 or 15 years. Hi.
Hello.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the council on something that's not a part of tonight's agenda? All right, seeing none, then we will move on. Item 4 is the consent agenda. There are 4 items.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Rosendahl. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Item 5, public hearings. The first public hearing is to consider the operating budget for fiscal year 24-25. The public notice for this was published in the April 12, 2024 Des Moines Register, and ask for any objections to that. Notice is published.
There were none.
The motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Rosendahl. Discussion, please vote. That passes. And introduces our Finance Director, Nikki Lamb. Nikki?
Mayor and members of council, finally it is here to adopt the budget for fiscal '25. It's full 30 days later than it normally is because of the new legislation, so it feels like it's been a long process. Thank you for bearing with us, and we'll go through it since it's been a while since you guys have talked about it. The operating budget that we're approving tonight, the operating piece is $77 million. The majority of that, as we all know, is personnel costs. The number is a little bit lower. It's only 44% this year because the total debt service that is added in for all of our calls have kind of diluted the number. But it's the same number of people. We're actually adding about 8 new positions. But these are all of our standard criteria that we always go through. The cost per day to operate the city is not even a fancy Starbucks coffee, $4.68. That's using our last official census. Lost revenues continues to be a nice, strong revenue for us, and that is enabling us to do the debt service retirements, which is covered in the next bullet. This budget does include almost $14 million in debt service, additional debt service to call and pay off the 3 additional bonds in the next year. Capital projects is a decrease pretty significantly because last budget anticipated that we would start having community center expenditures, and that's not happening. So the number looks low, but it continues to be consistent with what our normal project load is. Our budget does include the water utility, as always, so that one does have a slight increase in there. And then that arrives to our total certified budget, which is what goes to the state, $185.9 million. The majority of the increase, you'll see that in that bottom point, $14.5 million is from the debt service pieces alone. If you recall, any type of debt service has to be paid legally from the debt service fund, but the funds that are held to do it, lost and TIF, to call and pay those off, are in a separate fund. So I have a double count because the transfers is in there as well as the debt service. So it makes the number seem really skewed whenever we do that. But it's good news that we're calling and paying off those bonds. On the revenue side, this is all review for all of you. The House File 718 impacts. I won't belabor that again, but effectively shifted around our general levy from $8.10 down to $7.86. The other pieces of that, the rollback, residential rollback, we've talked ad nauseum about that, how much of an increase to the rollback percentage. So all the taxpayers, that's a great thing for them because they are going to pay less. They have less taxable value. But as a city, then that is leading to our increase on our debt service levy as well as the net of the other levies to get to our net 7 cents increase. That rollback was a huge impact for us. The other big piece, which continues to be, is the business property tax credit, the impact of that being on commercial. So if you remember, that used to be something all businesses had to apply for. It is now a by right credit. So they get the first $150,000 of the commercial value taxed at residential rates. So that takes it off the board for all properties instead of just those that apply, which is a pretty big number. So this is just an overview because we have the net 7 cents, 5 cents on debt service, which is tied to our capital projects. The net is the difference in all of the other 3. As I said, general fund went down. The other 2 kind of balanced that out to get it a nice even number at 7 cents. I already kind of talked about this, the debt service that is related to capital. That was already approved in that capital improvements program document that was approved in January. And the rest is related to the other levies that net 2 cents. So we have 8 positions. We have 3 union contracts, all of which are higher than our increase in valuation existed. So that 4% increase by those union contracts alone causes us to be able to increase for that. Only 2 cents though, that's really good. But it does create a net 7 cent increase, even though taxpayers will end up seeing generally stagnant or a slight decrease depending upon how much your value of your house went up. So that's where that residential rollback, yes, it went down, but if your value of your house, everybody saw, 10 to 30% increases on your value of your house. So it depends upon where in that bucket you fell. It seems to be about 22% and less will pay just a smidge less, and the rest will go up, but just a little bit. And I'm happy to calculate that for anybody that needs it. So some of the specifics in the actual expenditure column, 8 full-time positions. There are just 262 people in full-time status with the city, so all the operations covered just by 262 people. We continue to run very lean. The new positions are in the breakdown in each of the functions that are there. I mentioned the 44% of our operating budget is covered by personnel costs. We are in the service business, so most of our cost is people to provide those services. No huge changes in the pension rates, and then the debt service we already talked about. We're paying off 3 bonds using the local option sales tax and TIF revenue. Just our graphical kind of where we've been, slow and steady. That's at the end of the day, there is not a lot of fluctuation over the last 7 years. Into 8 years, this is the first time that it's gone up in a couple, but as I said, the House File 718 had a big impact on that. This is just how our dollars are divided up. No shock that property taxes is 60% of our budget. That is very consistent. Any city, that is how we generate revenue. We don't get income tax, we get property tax. The other categories, while significant, are ancillary to property taxes. The other financing sources, you see that at 20%. So that other financing source means bond proceeds or transfers. So that's what those are. And by category, this is just the visual, very steady. Our sources of funds doesn't change. Same idea on the expenditure side. For every dollar you spend, this is the cents of that. So 21 cents goes to public safety, 15 cents to public works. Again, this one is, our goal is to spend about 25 cents of our budget, 25% on debt service. We call and retire or pay aggressively to get that stuff paid off as quickly as we can. It's like paying your mortgage down. And that is a very consistent. All of these numbers are pretty consistent from year to year. And then the categories, we just talked about that as well. The main piece being that blue section at the bottom for personnel. That's what our main cost is. Usually a city is between 45 is actually pretty low, and up to 80%. So in counties, it's even higher. So it's a huge portion of the budget. That's what we do. So this isn't uncommon. The fluctuation causes changes based on when we have transfers for debt, because that falls in that capital outlay. That's where transfers happen. So that's why that number fluctuates. Fun math. That's all I have. We've gone through it several times, so I kind of skimmed through that quickly. Happy to answer any questions or refresh on anybody that has questions.
I have one question. Can you just pull up that last neat little triangle graph that you had? So we're adding 8 positions, but the cost of our personnel is actually going down 1% in my reading of this chart.
So this is as a percentage of total. That's what
Okay.
this graph is showing. So of operating costs, our total budget is going up. But
okay.
how it skews between the personnel portion, the supplies and maintenance portion, and the capital outlay, which includes transfers,
Okay.
the bottom number is a lot higher. So as a piece of the pie, personnel costs is up, but as a percentage of the pie, it's less.
I'm glad.
I know, Matt.
I'm glad you understand.
Denominator changes.
I got it seems like a really simple answer, but I was like, that doesn't make sense.
So usually I show this one because the pie is the pie. Like the increases, that's not the number you should focus on. It's how much of that budget continues to go to that resource. We've kind of talked internally about should we strip out the transfers piece so that it truly is, and then that number would be super consistent. Even though you add people, the ratio of going up in all those categories tends to be up about the same amount. So if you go up 4% in personnel, well, capital costs and supply costs sometimes goes up more than personnel. So the base pieces of it, the transfers and the debt, that is considered part of this calculation. We could adjust to show it so it doesn't skew it artificially.
Well, and then
get what
on
you're
where you break out like the key components of our expenditures, doesn't just the cost of doing business going up impact that as well? I mean, it's more than just
Again, this is
personnel.
this is the percentage of the pie. So again, debt service is taking up a bunch of that because I have an extra $14 million in there. So as a percentage of total versus the dollar. So if you looked at this chart from before, public safety is still going up almost $4 million. Yes, costs are definitely going up, but as a percentage of the pie, that's more of the apples to apples from one year to the next. It represents what share of your budget you're spending in each of these areas, which is a comparable. If you're an apples to apples of another community, we all have the same function in personnel, in a public safety perspective, or we have garbage. Not everybody has garbage crews, so that's a different piece. For our public works, it tends to be a little bit high because most cities don't have solid waste. So we have
But that would show up in contractual services.
usually that would actually show up down in an enterprise fund. So We are
I'll
unique,
stop
I know.
asking questions.
It's that apples to apples. There's, that is probably one of the biggest frustrations is people try to compare things, but you don't know the backstory of what's in our bucket versus what's in West Des Moines' bucket or Des Moines' bucket or Clive's bucket. Everybody has different things. Ankeny has an airport and a golf course. If you don't know what is in each function for each city, it's hard to compare. But as a percentage of total, they typically kind of blend out, I guess, is what my point would be. True dollars is hard to comprehend. I mean, $24 million, that's a number that most people don't get. But if you're saying of every dollar I spend, 25 cents of that goes to public safety, okay, you can kind of understand where the priorities. So as a council, that's what we're trying to show you is where you've directed those funds based on priorities. Other questions?
All right, thank you, Nikki. This is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the council on this? What's that? Yeah. Yeah. Does everyone like to address the council on this item? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing? Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Rosendahl. Discussion, please vote. I did open it, didn't I? Yeah, we did open it.
Amy open.
I did, yeah.
I'm just lapsing, don't worry about me.
I always put an O for they're open, and I always cross through the O to close it, so. All right, that passes. There are 2 items for consideration.
Motion to approve Resolution 129-2024.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Bodie. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
And motion to approve Resolution 130-2024.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
by Bodie. Discussion, please vote. That passes. All right, our operating budget is approved for this fiscal year. Thank you, AJ. Thank you, Nikki, and everyone. Thank you for the entire staff again for, I said this before, but we can't say it enough. Thanks. This is, people think this is just kind of on autopilot. It truly is not. We spend a lot of time, staff spends a lot of time on this. We, as a council, spend a lot of time reviewing this, and it's vital work, and I wish people knew the time that we spend on this to painstakingly determine what the budget should be for the next year. So thank you for everybody's time on this. Moving on, we will have a public hearing to consider the Colby Woods Amendment to the Planned Unit Development Master Plan and rezoning from CO Office Service District to the PUD Planned Unit Development District at 7901 Douglas Avenue. The public notice for this was published in the April 17, 2024 Des Moines Register. And any objections to that notice is published.
There were none.
Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Rosendahl,
Second.
second by Bodie. Discussion, please vote. Oh, Larry. Oh. That passes. And to introduce this is our Community Development Director, Steve Franklin. Steve.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, all. This is a request to rezone 7901 Douglas, which is the parcel you see outlined here in red. Douglas Avenue to the south here, 79th Street. This is the proposed location for the food pantry, as you know, to relocate and operate out of this particular property. The existing CO zoning district didn't really fit what the food pantry is. That's a use that really fits better in the CN zoning district, which is the next intense commercial district. Just rezoning just this property on its own to CN doesn't really work because you need to have at least 2 acres to make it be its own PUD. This is less than that. And so what we looked at doing is the same thing that we've done to the property immediately to the west and then the property immediately to the west of that, these 2 parcels. Back in 2014, we had users that wanted to use both of those properties, and we rezoned those and brought them into the Colby Woods PUD, which is the entire area there on the south side of Douglas. That's all a rather large PUD with a bunch of different uses in it. So that worked really well for these two business owners to be able to do that. And since we thought, okay, we already have a little bump to come up and catch these two pieces anyway, we would just offer including this piece into that PUD. So the action here, two pieces, is to rezone this parcel from CO to PUD and then amend the Colby Woods PUD to bring this parcel into it for the food pantry operation. That use is certainly in line with the new Forward Urbandale Comprehensive Plan that was adopted in December. It would be consistent with that land use designation in that plan, so that certainly makes sense, along with what we did for those other two parcels. So Planning and Zoning Commission does recommend approval of the rezoning and the amendment to that PUD, subject to, you saw those items in the staff report. One is to have the food pantry be a permitted use, along with all of the CO uses that would have been there before the rezoning, in case we get an office use that comes along later. Reduce the required parking spaces to kind of work with what they have there from 5 per thousand to 4 per thousand. We certainly think that's appropriate. We do have other places in town where we have that lower number, and we are working on a parking reduction across all kinds of different sectors to bring to you sooner rather than later to consider. That would be in line with that. The third item was to make the addition that they're gonna do to the north end of this building have the same setback from the west property line over here on the west side of the property, which is about 11.5 feet. That is also in line with a lot of commercial properties. We have a lot of commercial properties where the code says you don't even have to have a setback, but if you do, it needs to be 10 feet, and this would be 11.5. So that seems to work as well. So those were the recommendations from P&Z to be able to do that, and I would be happy to answer any questions as you have them. I would also point out we do have a request to waive the second and third readings, make this the only reading tonight, and that is in an effort to facilitate the closing of the property. So any questions I can answer?
All right, questions for Steve on this? All right, we are in public hearing on this item. Would anyone like to address the council on this item? Sure, ma'am, if you could please come up to the podium, please, and give your name and address, and you can ask your question. We'll try to get it answered, so.
I'm Dawn Kirkman, and I own the property that is to the north of that building. And I just want to know where.
You could address the council, please.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just want to know where I can get more information of what the plan is that they're going to do with that building for, you know, the whole yard area and everything.
Okay, we can, it's going to be owned by the Urbandale Food Pantry, so.
Okay.
As far as any specific site plan changes, Steve, they can get that through your office, correct?
They can get it through our office, or it will be on the agenda at the next council meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you want to watch for the agenda for the next council meeting and attend that, the site plan will be there. Has that gone to P&Z already, or? Okay, so it's already gone to P&Z, but we'll have it on our next city council meeting,
Okay.
which would be on the 20,
That would be May 6th.
or May 6th.
May 6th.
Yeah, it's a
May
Monday.
6th.
Okay.
So,
Okay, thank you. I just want to know more plans.
okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the council on this? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery.
Second.
By Bodie, discussion, please vote. Nicole, I assume you have it plugged in to suspend the rules and all that good stuff?
Yes, if you'd like to.
You want to try that, Blake? This
That
time? No,
passes.
I wanted to say something first, though. I just am really excited for this project. And I think it is the culmination of a lot of things that we're trying to do. And I'm just glad that it worked, the timing worked for us, so thank you. Thanks, everyone, and you too, in front of Patty, for your work in economic development, so.
All right, Blake, you want to tackle it? You're the suspension of the rules.
I'm the rules guy. I move to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings of ordinance 2024-06.
Motion by Rosendahl. Oh, wait a minute, excuse me,
Or-
we need to amend the PUD
okay.
first. Let's take that first, I'm sorry.
Motion to approve the Colby Woods amendment to the PUD.
Okay, motion by Rosendahl,
Second.
second by Kroll, discussion, please vote. Excuse me. passes.
Move to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings of ordinance 2024-06.
Motion by Rosendahl,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Move to approve the first reading, waive the second reading, and approve the third and final reading of ordinance 2024-06.
Motion by Rosendahl,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes. All right. Congratulations. Thank you, everybody, for, again, for everybody's hard work on this. We're not quite done yet, but we're getting there, so congratulations. Moving on then to to regular agenda items. First is item 6.1, that's to consider the non-union employee salary schedules for fiscal year 24-25. AJ, were you?
Aaron Freeman, our HR director, is online as well. Either one of us would be happy to, I'm sorry. Aaron Freeman is online, our HR director, and either one of us would be happy to answer questions you may have. This was incorporated into your discussions during the budget process, and given the fact that you have just adopted your budget for the new fiscal year, this allows staff to begin the process of updating all of the employee information.
Okay. Questions for either AJ or Aaron?
Motion to approve council letter 7768.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Rosendahl. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Item 6.2 is considered the employee handbook. And again, Aaron or AJ would answer any questions on this.
This simply is for the inclusion of the 2 additional holidays that you discussed and approved.
Motion to approve council letter 7769.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Carberry Montgomery. Discussion, please vote.
It's moving ahead.
That passes. That takes us to the end of our regular agenda. Bridget? Do you have anything to start with?
Oh, you said my name.
Yes.
Well, I just wanted to again say thank you to the finance department and everyone for this budget process, which does feel, I mean, I think it feels like with CIP committee, it's been about 6 months. So
It is.
I really, really appreciate, I think our process is second to none and thoroughly, I mean, even though I don't understand some of the stuff, I mean, it's really tight process. And also, I'm really excited about the food pantry and all the work that everyone here and at the food pantry has done to move that forward. And just with the new process with the budget, I don't want you to spend a lot of time, but like we have there's a talk with officials coming up. I mean, if we could get like a few paragraphs maybe explaining like how this year was different, I'm assuming that will be kind of negative, in terms of timing. But I guess I just like timing, costs, just inefficiencies, things like that. I don't want you to waste a lot of time on it, but I think I'd really like to be able to talk to people in the legislature and tell them what this really meant. More than just the cutting of the property taxes, which people were excited about. I mean, it had other significant implications on the way we do business. So does my request make sense?
Yes, we'll talk. We've had some preliminary
Oh,
discussions
okay.
based on earlier comments that the council has made. I've seen other examples from other cities, some examples of, I think, where you're wanting to go on that. So let us talk internally.
And it wouldn't be a council meeting if it didn't have a DART update. So I sent you guys the action that the commission took yesterday. We approved the budget, the status quo budget as we had been planning to, but we actually, with the money from the MPO, will be able to implement that budget. The MPO money has to go towards carbon reduction.
Actually,
So-
capital costs.
Right,
related to
so
that, yeah.
we will be able to move money around to free up money from other federal sources that were going towards capital costs to go towards operating expenses. But it's nothing, it's never that easy. So I did forward you the news story from last night, and I'd be happy to talk to you more about that after the meeting, because it's incredibly, it's still very tedious and very, we're in a little bit of an existential crisis still at DART, so, but we have a budget, so we've gotten that far.
All right.
Ditto everything Bridget said, and I'd like to thank Bridget for all the work she's putting in on DART. It's a very challenging time, so thank you for that. And I wanted to commend our mayor and make sure everyone was aware that this afternoon, the Central Iowa Water Works held its first Board of Directors meeting. So we now have a regional water utility taking wonderful shape, and one of the two key speakers was our mayor, and he did a lovely job.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Amy?
I don't have much other than if you get a chance, research Greg Colburn, wrote the book Homelessness is a Housing Problem. We hosted a presentation from him last week for work, and Mayor Anderweg was there, as were lots of other folks in the room, but really highlights what are some of the driving factors of homelessness within our community. And as you can imagine, it's housing.
Yeah.
Shocking by the title.
That's the name of the title, yeah.
Exactly. So, but we are going to look at possibly bringing him back. We've had some interest from the Board of Supervisors to bring him back. So stay tuned.
I was with Angela yesterday, and she said that in a discussion specifically to talk to area mayors and city councils. She would like to have him come back, so
Oh, that'd be good.
get excited.
Be good. Blake?
Not a lot here, other than the flag feedback form closed on Monday. And so we've got lots of great feedback, and we won't steal too much thunder, because I'm sure you've got other things to say too. So, but very excited about it, and looking forward to all the exciting stuff that we get to do in the future.
Yep, absolutely. Larry?
I'll try to get this out without sounding completely horrible, but it's basically pothole season now. So for folks who want to report it, we do have that app that we still use, the C-Click Fix app. So makes it easy to get your reports in. So make sure that you use it. I know I'm using it for some giant craters we have around our neighborhood. So we got a couple big ones.
All right. Yeah, well, it was Monday.
Yeah,
What a-
Parks and Rec. Shout out to Parks
Oh,
and Rec
yeah,
for Earth
yeah,
Day.
yeah. Wait, you want to say it? Just go ahead.
Yeah, shout out to Parks and Rec for Earth Day.
That went well, I think. I wasn't able to be part of it. Yeah, thanks. I have a few other things and a few follow-up things. First, on property tax, I think, Nikki, you participated in a or not? Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, the bottom line is, though, the league is, continuing to engage with the legislature out of session, and we will continue to engage on that as far as dialogue, as far as what could happen on property tax in the future. I think there's a general consensus on legislators that, some of the things in House File 718 were clearly not effective and frankly silly, especially the mailing. So hopefully we can get some of those resolved in the coming years. So I think you do see a recognition of that, but we certainly will get some of that information pulled up. Thank you, Pat, for the CIWW, and thank you for your role when,
Thanks.
as on the Water Board of Trustees. As I said, that was a long time coming. And as I said in the meeting, I didn't have gray hair when it started, so. But in all seriousness, it was a long time coming, and in my mind, over 10 years, and probably even longer than that, behind the scenes a little bit. But, and there were points I didn't think it was ever gonna get done. We'd sat through hours and hours and hours of meetings on that, but finally it came together, and I think it's gonna be terrific for our region. I think everybody needs to be vested in the fact that we need to have good, plentiful, safe drinking water at the most affordable cost, and I think this is our ability to do that, so. Kudos to that, and they're moving forward now, so. Blake mentioned the flag. We did have a flag committee meeting last night, went through some of the results and looking at that, so stay tuned. We're working forward, and we're still on schedule to have that publicly announced for the June 27 State of the City, so that's very exciting. And I also was asked to do an interview with Channel 13 this morning, so that should be on air tomorrow and online hopefully too, so they
On the flag?
On the flag, yep. And also yesterday, the Urbandale School District did a ribbon cutting for the Metro West Learning Academy and was able to go there for that. And that's a terrific facility, and they already do a lot of good work, and they're gonna continue that good work in that new space. It's a beautiful space. So if you have a chance to stop there, I would highly recommend you just take a look and see what they're doing there, because they're really helping kids. You know, I thought about it as kind of the last mile type of thing as far as getting kids across the goal line to finish and get their degrees. So they're doing good things there. I have nothing further. So with that,
Bob, can I ask a question about the water, Central Iowa Water Works? I feel like I don't really fully understand what has happened. And I know I've been along for this for a while, but because it's so separate from us, I don't, but I feel I should still know more than I do know. Is there information, like a explainer a little bit that would explain what happened? I mean, our waterworks still exists.
Our waterworks still exist and will still continue to exist. The Central Iowa Waterworks is going to be, Pat just walked away, probably she's had a lot of dialogue in the last couple of years as a water trustee. But essentially, all the communities, all the existing water utilities, Des Moines Water Utility, West Des Moines Water Utility, Urbandale Water Utility will all remain in effect. We will remain though as a distribution utility. We will never be in the production arena, and Central Iowa Waterworks will be controlling the production of water. So,
Are they the sole producer of water, or does West Des Moines?
well, West Des Moines will still have its own production facility, Pat. So, you know, I think they will eventually transfer their assets to CIWW though, isn't that right, Pat?
Yes.
Yeah, the plan, not immediately, but eventually West Des Moines would also transfer its production assets to CIWW. Yeah.
Did anyone opt out of this?
Yes, Altoona opted out. There are 12 communities in this. The notable opt-outs are Altoona. Is there anybody else? Yeah, Pleasant Hill's out of it too, so.
So what is it, does our water board still exist?
Oh, yeah. So, and it will exist. So.
It's basically regional production and same old distribution.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's really the summary. And now we have some level of governance, because that's really the way it's been operating all along, but we didn't have governance. It was regional in nature. Now we have regional governance.
So now we truly have a seat at the table. Before, it was Des Moines Waterworks, and everybody contracted with Des Moines Waterworks. And we had different levels of contracts. I mean, Urbandale was, I think, very, in the past, very insightful in having what was called purchase capacity, which would, essentially, we were an investor in the regional production system by buying purchase capacity, which lowered our rates for our residents versus another city that didn't do that, but then had to pay essentially the retail rate for water. So
Don't worry, it's not COVID or anything. I just got some. I'm really sorry.
Water got you choked
Yeah.
up.
And are you the representative for Urbandale on?
No, because we're not, again, it's like the WRA. Since, you know, since we have a water utility, the water utility is the member.
Okay.
The city of Urbandale is not a member of CIWW, it's the water utility. So the water utility appoints the representative, which is now John McEwen.
Okay.
So,
It might behoove us, I think it would be a very good idea for us to have a presentation by the new director of our waterworks to come and present.
I think that'd be good too, yeah.
That'd be great.
When do we have him scheduled?
We already have.
May 6th? No,
For our director from
Yeah,
Urbandale.
for
yes.
Neil. We meet,
Let me look. I believe it is the second meeting.
second meeting in May. We reached out and I talked to
Yes,
Neil.
May
I said, I think it'd be a
21st.
good idea to introduce yourself and give a quick synopsis of what just happened.
Thank you.
So, yes, Neil will
You
be
could
here.
have cut, you could have cut me off,
No, I'm sorry.
so.
No, it's good
Yeah.
to know. I mean, it's a complicated thing, and again,
Very much so.
it took years, and it took some compromise overall by some positions that were taken, but at the end, I think it's still a good model, and it's going to be served well.
So does Altoona and Pleasant Hill still get their water from Des Moines
So-
Waterworks, or do they have their own?
Altoona has production. They don't produce everything, I don't think. They still buy, but they're going to be buying,
Government's not in either.
yeah. So they'll be buying essentially at the retail rate. Yeah.
There may be some short-term benefits for them, but long-term, it's gonna be challenging for them.
Yeah, and if they want to come in later, then it's going to be difficult for them to come in later. Yeah.
And there are a lot of different things that hung it up, but the big one at the end was Xenia, and Xenia's involved. They're at the table, so that's good for us. Some great agreements were established through Central Iowa Waterworks with Xenia that we will all benefit from. So overall, it's taken a long time, but it's an excellent piece of work.
Yep.
And I'm sure there'll still be things that come up. It's inevitable. But
You know, from Urbandale's perspective, the Urbandale Water Utility had purchased land, as you probably know, but again, just kind of a refresher, they had purchased land in Johnston for production and land in Urbandale on,
Where the coyotes live.
yeah, where the coyotes live, and just by the Ramada there, just north of Ramada, excuse me. It's catching now.
Get out of the way.
So those will, as I understand it too, those will eventually be transferred into the CIWW as well, so.
well, actually, it was happened pretty quickly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
all right, anything further? If not, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
And then tomorrow.